Welcome to the Body Ethos Podcast, where we're shifting the culture from sickness to health. Before we dive in, please remember that this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Body Ethos Podcast, where we're all about shifting the culture from sickness to health. I'm your host, Jessica Whitmill, and today we're diving into all things parasites, one of my favorite topics. Today, our guest, Courtney, is here to talk all about why parasite cleansing, although often overlooked, is a critical aspect of healing not only chronic illness, but things like digestive issues, emotional and hormonal imbalances, and that perfectly aligns with our mission to uncover the root cause of illness and empower you on your healing journey. So let's get started. Courtney, before we get started, I'd love for you to tell the audience just a little bit about yourself and how you became a practitioner.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and be a part of your podcast world. So I am Courtney Kinnett-Hooper. I'm a practitioner up in Minnesota, but I work with people all over, virtual. What a beautiful thing. And I became a practitioner because of my own health struggles, health journey. I've been struggling basically since the day I was born. So I think just knowing that the system wasn't supporting my body in the way that I needed, and I was only getting more and more sick, I was able to find parasite cleansing and spiritual things that allowed my body to actually heal. And I just felt like I really wanted to share that with other people. Because if I'm going through it, I'm not alone. There's always somebody else that's feeling that struggle. And so I have a lot of passion for helping people get there as well, because we need it. Like, this is needed so much.
Absolutely. I agree. It's so needed. And I think it's cool that you were just saying, hey, like you were just getting sicker and sicker, and there had to be a way for you to get well and find wellness. So I love for you to tell us just a little bit more about your own personal experience with parasite cleansing. I know it was a huge part of your healing journey, and what were maybe some like significant shifts that you've seen after doing parasite cleansing?
Okay. Sounds good. Well, obviously, like, I feel like a lot of us don't realize the symptoms that we're experiencing are from parasites or toxins or along those lines. And I definitely feel like I had signs of it from the time I was a teenager. And then it pretty much imploded in my mid-20s. I want to say, like, I was like fainting randomly, like I just was not in good shape. And then that's when I eventually hit the point where I was bedridden. So I was not able to eat. I had, this might be TMI for people, but it was like diarrhea. Like, I could not get out of bed. I had no energy. It was probably the worst I'd ever been in my life. And I was still fainting and sweating. It was not good. Like, I can't even put words to what that was like. And so I went to a naturopath, and they like put me on some parasite killers and stuff like that. And it helped, but it didn't like actually get me to where I wanted to be. So I was fine. And then a year later came and it got worse. Obviously, there were some environmental stressors, some trauma that had happened. So there was like the perfect storm is what I like to call it, of what caused it to come back. But if I would have gotten rid of it fully in the first place, it wouldn't have come back. So that was where I was kind of in a mode of like, how do we get rid of this for good? Because this isn't how I should be like set up like that. So eventually that's when I found Cellcore, and I started doing all these parasite cleansing and like going through all of it. And then I made myself sick because I chose not to work with a practitioner because I didn't really know that was a thing. I was so new to it, and I was learning a lot about it and thought I could walk myself through it with not having like knowing how to muscle test or the full knowledge behind it. And so I ended up having this massive gallbladder attack, liver attack. Again, I was bedridden for months and months, couldn't eat, couldn't stand. I was in so much pain. And eventually that's when I learned how to muscle test, and I was actually able to flush a bunch of gallstones out, liver flukes out. And I was still pretty weak after that, still recovering, but I eventually hit a point where I was okay. Like, I was fine. I was functioning. I could eat again. It just like grosses me out having to think back to like that time in life, but we all got to go through it to like learn. I think I went through that experience to help people because I've been there. I've been in the ruts of it. I kind of sent myself into like the worst of the worst doing a parasite cleanse, and I was able to figure out how to pull myself out of it. So yeah, still parasite cleansing, but it's never ending.
Exactly. Well, and you brought up some like really important parts too. Like, you know, I think like working with a naturopath was like a good first step, but like you said, you really didn't like finish the job, which is something that I wanted to kind of talk about. Like, I think people think, you know, it's just a 3-day cleanse, but in reality, it takes months and months. And then two, not having that bio-individual approach that you have now with the muscle testing, which we both actually met at the Cell Core muscle testing workshop. And that was really important to figure out how to really individually address. It's not just like a blanket protocol. It's not like just like you do it for 3 days or you do it for a month and like you're good, you know, it's like what it says on the box. It's like, no, like it really does take a bio-individual approach because it's so multi-factored. And I think that that was honestly probably what makes you a really good practitioner too, because you realize all this. You realize that you don't just hand somebody a kit and say, okay, have fun. Your parasites are going to be gone after this. Yeah. And like it takes so much more than that. And unfortunately, you learned it the hard way, but now you're a walking testament to done the right way. It is transformational, and I have my health back. Yeah.
And I will say, like the naturopath I went to, she did utilize muscle testing. So I did appreciate that, but it wasn't like, there wasn't a strategy behind it. It was just like, oh, like, yeah, we'll just put you on a killer and then we'll give you some nutrients. And then I went and saw her a month later, and that's when she was like, now we'll put you on a binder. And I was like, okay, like now looking back, I'm like, that's not right. So it's just looking at it from a different perspective. And like everybody has their own way of doing things, but there is like kind of a right path in which, or right strategy in which you should approach parasite cleansing.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can get into that a little bit because I think that plays into this whole idea of like, we want to talk about common myths or misconceptions about parasite cleansing. So just kind of like on that topic of like, there's a strategy. I think a lot of people think they can just go to their natural health store and buy a 3-day cleanse, or like we were talking about, you know, listening to some people on a forum where it's like, just take some black walnut and you'll be better. Or like, so, and that's not exactly how this works. So if you want to talk to me a little bit of some of that strategy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I do want to add that like, there is a time and a place for like a 5-day parasite cleanse, but you're not starting there by any means. That's like when you finally can reach the maintenance in your life and your body can handle it and you don't have a buildup of toxins. So I think that's really important to remember. And like one thing to remember too is like, you're not going to start with heavy metals. You're not going to start with mold. You got to start with the parasites. And so that's where that strategy comes in, because these parasites are holding on to those toxins. They're absorbing it. And so you kind of got to start with them, get them out of there, and then you can muck up the rest. Or as you're parasite cleansing, you are going to muck up what they release, because they do hold, 8 times their body weight in toxins. And then when they die, they literally explode. Like they're like releasing those toxins. They're releasing their eggs because it's their instinct to try and survive in that environment. If they keep your environment toxic, they're going to thrive and they're going to survive. So we need to be able to do the parasite cleansing, but even though they die and you see them coming out, we're still cleaning up after them as they get out of your system. So it's not a 3 days, we're good to go. It's a 3 days, you killed them, but they're still repopulating in your system. So it kind of defeats the purpose. You're actually making a bigger mess than what you started with, in my opinion. So
No, I agree completely. And, you know, every type of parasite has its own life cycle. Like I actually was doing some research. I think some are like 21 days, but some are even like 4 months. So like gestation period, which is so gross to think about, you guys. They're laying eggs, they're reproducing, they have their own life cycle. And so some parasites, it does take like that, like 4 or 5 months of cleansing to really eradicate them completely. But like you said too, I think it's it's easy from a client perspective to think, well, I have a mold test, so I have mold. That's what I need to start with. Or I have a Lyme, confirmation on a test. I need to do Lyme, or I did an HTMA and I have really high mercury or aluminum or something like that. And it's like, well, that's great, but we need to start with the parasites because of how much of an immune stressor they are. So your immune system will never be able to take care of all that other stuff like mold or, Lyme specifically. But also, if you just get rid of the heavy metals, the parasites are still holding on to the heavy metals and you're not really getting rid of all of it. So when they go through their natural life cycle, they're still releasing those heavy metals, right? And so it's one of those things where you said, like, it needs to be strategic. And something that I know you and I both do, and something that I try to remind clients is a lot of these products that we're using to kill the parasites, we're actually killing them, they're also good for fungus and yeast. They're also good for mold. They also support the immune system for you to get rid of Lyme and those co-infections, and then also to help very gently mobilize heavy metals. So it's not like, I think of like parasite cleansing as like a complete gut cleanse, but more than that, just a complete body cleanse, because it's not just hitting the parasites, it's hitting everything else. And we can also kind of start bringing in some of these things too along the way.
No, I love that, what you said, because it's so true. It's all multi-purpose, which sounds probably like cheap to people, but it's not. Like, it is like one of the best things, because then you're getting the most bang for your buck and you're getting the most progression out of your body that you can ask for it to give you. And I don't know, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but sometimes you just got to do the multi-purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I think it's less like that it's like cheapened, but these herbs are so beautiful, right? When you get the right collection of herbs for this process, which, you and I work with practitioner line only supplements. So they are high quality, very strategically put together. And they have these multi-purposes, and these herbs are like, yes, they kill parasites, but they also support your blood sugar regulation. And some of them are like really good for your mood and support your hormones and like, all these different things. And so it's one of those things too, where it's like, yeah, sure, an herb might be like known for a parasite killer, but they also a lot of times have these other beautiful properties too.
Yeah. And what's great about that too is that you don't get so depleted. Like, you're able to kill and do that. Like, obviously you still need to bring in other things to build it, but you're not getting so worn out, depleted in your body when you're using these certain types of supplements where they all work so beautifully together. Like, you get to repair like your mitochondria health and get rid of these parasites at the same time. Like, that's pretty cool.
It's so cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just for listeners, like, mitochondria health is like your cellular energy. So if you're feeling like super depleted because you have this chronic health issue, a lot of these supplements are going to come and actually like help energize your body so it can repair and heal at the same time as we're killing off these parasites. So like you said, it's like a multi-factored process, but it's strategic.
Yes. Yeah. And I think one thing that I like missed, which we might touch on later, but like a part of that strategy is that you're not just going in and like killing like ASAP. Like, you need to work on your foundations. You need to work on your drainage pathways and stuff like that before even thinking about it. Because if your body isn't right, if it can't properly detox, if you're still reaching for McDonald's for lunch every day, like, it's not going to work. Like, I hate to break it to you, but you got to commit and you got to do the best for yourself and your body in order to actually see results and feel good. So.
No, I think that's another kind of misconception or myth, right? That like you can just start on a parasite cleanse. It takes time. And some clients that have really complex health histories or complex issues going on, like histamine issues, it can be a really slow process of really slowly opening up your drainage pathways, which means, getting the liver and the gallbladder and your lymphatic system and your immune system and your gut kind of back online. And then getting your body in a place where it can handle that type of like killing phase of things. And and like you said, you have to go low and slow, and diet and lifestyle and stress is a big part of all that too.
Yes. Yeah.
So definitely. And two, I think, we keep talking about people that have chronic illness, And I think that's another myth buster that I would like to talk about too, is like,
Yes.
is it only people who have chronic illness that have parasites?
No. Everybody, every single person. If you walk down on the beach and it's middle of winter, you're on a vacation, you're walking barefoot on the beach, you are getting exposed to parasites. Like you're flying on an airplane, you're getting exposed to parasites. Like we breathe them in, we drink them, like they're in the air, like they're in our food, like if you eat sushi, but it could even be in like other meats or fruits and vegetables that you're consuming. Like we are always and forever exposed to them. So it is one of those things where we need to accept that, yes, we're going to be exposed to them and we have to do this work for life. But like they're a part of our ecosystem. They're a part of what we have. We have them for a reason. They can protect us from toxin exposures that are more severe, like heavy metals, but we got to learn to work with them and get rid of them at the same time. For how, like it is a daily exposure, unfortunately. Even like your pets, like your pet licking you in the face, parasites.
Yep, especially sleeping in your bed.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and like my one too is like, have you ever used a public restroom? Have you ever eaten a salad out at a restaurant? Could have been poorly. Yeah, I don't think I actually told you this, Courtney, but I was at an airport one time, like eating a breakfast potato, and I cut into it, and there was a huge worm in there.
No.
I know. Yeah. So there was parasites in my food that day. Obviously I didn't eat it, but you know, I could see that one. But it is part of just kind of organic matter. Like it is part of like gardening and like, you know, agriculture. Like they are there in the soil and they can get into your food and you may not be able to see it. Like I obviously like saw like an actual one, but yeah, it was a good reminder of like, oh yeah, they're there. So yeah.
And it's not just, and just to like clarify for people, like it's not just like an earthworm that you see.
Oh,
like
yeah,
it's
totally.
a different species of parasite. That is something if you ingest, it's gonna do something to your body.
Most parasites are microscopic. Most parasites
I think
are
it's
microscopic.
I think it's like 70% of the parasites. It might be a higher percentage of that, but I think 70% are microscopic.
And most of the time when you are getting exposed to them, like you said, in the air or with the water you drink or with food that you eat, you're actually ingesting like eggs or like liquid. So it's not, you're not going to actually see it like I did. That was an extreme example, but you are going to get exposed to it in small ways. And you can get it from your partner too. But again, like, especially if you're sleeping with your animal in your bed or letting them lick your face, or you're walking on soil or grass or, you know, the beach or any type of interaction with nature, really, you can get exposed to them. It's just part of life.
Yes, it is. And that's why we just got to normalize parasite cleansing. It's an ancient wisdom that we've had for thousands and thousands of years that's gotten lost, and we're just bringing it back.
It's true. If you talk to people from other countries and other cultures, they're like, oh yeah, like I go to my doctor, you know, or I go down to like the store and I pick up a parasite cleanse and I do it twice a year. Like that's just a part of like my normal, you know, yearly practice. And here people will look at you like you have, you know, a ton of like you're an alien, you know, if you say you have a parasite. And then
like, we're going to put you on a psych ward.
Yeah, exactly. You're crazy. But I will tell you right now, if you type in, and I challenge, you know, listeners to this too, like if you type in like parasites into PubMed, which is like, you know, our US, you know, research hub, there are tons of research on this. And I wanted to kind of dig into some of that too, like how it's connected to not just like chronic health issues, but maybe some things that we are like, oh, like gallbladder issues or hormonal imbalances or mental health issues and things like that. So are you ready to dive into maybe some of that? Yeah.
I have one thing to add before I forget too, is there's something on the CDC website that you can actually go and look at, and they actually put parasites in vaccines now. So I don't know if you've heard of that or seen that, but I encourage listeners to like research that too, because that is something that we are getting that put in our body without even knowing it, which is kind of crazy and very scary. So it is something just to be aware of, that we're having that injected into us.
100%. Yes. No,
Yeah.
I think that's a good point because
Hmm.
there's a lot of things in those particular medical interventions, and
Hmm.
we're not aware of what's in there. And that is
Hmm.
definitely one thing that's in there as well. So, and
Yeah.
so even if you live in a sterile bubble, but you've taken some medical interventions like that, you could
Hmm.
be exposed to parasites. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's some also weird things happening with the weather and things like that, which we can get into
Yep.
another time. But
Yep.
yeah, I know they've been testing the air in some of these weird fogs and actually finding parasites as well, which is
Yep. And
very
that's where you're
concerning.
and that's where you're breathing it in, which is scary. So
Yeah,
you
definitely.
don't have you don't have a choice. So that's why you got to be proactive to combat it as best you can.
Exactly. Yes, 100%.
Hmm.
And could be why some of these health issues are also on the rise too. Like
Yep.
I was talking to you before we got on just about how, so many young people are getting their gallbladders removed. They're having gallbladder issues. I know
Hmm.
two people that have family members that have bile duct cancer, which for those of you who don't know what a bile duct, it's what's in our gallbladder and liver. Like there's bile ducts in both of those organs. And so, but parasites live there. And so I wanted to kind of
Hmm.
talk to you about that, like how they can affect our biliary system. And they're actually a
Yeah.
specific type of parasite called a liver fluke, which can cause lots of inflammation, which then can cause that abnormal cells to grow, creating cancer, but also too causing bile obstruction, which can cause those gallbladder attacks and things like that. And honestly, I think
Hmm.
that this is something that you and I both have in common is that the
Yeah.
parasites that we have love our gallbladders and livers. So I don't know if
Yes.
you want to kind of chat about your experience with that.
Yeah. So I I feel like I just want to say too before I get started is if you can do anything you can do to not get your gallbladder removed, like that is like the one thing that I do tell people. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it's your body, it's your choice, but if you can do anything you can do to not get rid of your gallbladder, do it because you're going to set yourself up for success. So doing things like taking care of your liver, working on the biliary tree in there to like enhance the health and detox the parasites is going to be a better bet and a long-term benefit. Whereas the
Mm-hmm.
gallbladder is such a short-term, that removal is such a short-term relief. It's not going to be forever. So yeah, with mine, oh, I was just so sick. I don't even know what to say. I hate going there. But for
Yeah.
mine, so what happened was like I didn't open up my drainage pathways fast enough or I didn't open them up well enough. And then I was started to kill and I was going for it. Things were going really good, but things started getting backed up and clogged. And so what happened was these parasites, as they're dying, they're already in your bile ducts. They're already clogging it and then it just like makes it worse and worse and worse, where you're not able to detox and you just get more and more sick. And what that leads to is like it can lead to nutrient deficiencies because this is what they're feeding on. They're feeding on the nutrients in your
Mm-hmm.
liver, they're feeding on your cholesterol. They could
Mm-hmm.
be feeding on the blood a lot. Your blood is it like 90%, or you're not your blood? Your liver is 90% blood. So they're in there feeding off of the blood, they're feeding off of your liver, they can be causing those hormone imbalances, the anemia, all of those things. And so it's just crazy to think that this one little thing, or these little, I call them slugs because they're just
Mm-hmm.
disgusting, these little slugs living in your liver, clogging everything up, is
Mm-hmm.
wreaking so much havoc. And it's just this ripple effect into hormone imbalance, into severe detoxification issues, which leads to lymphatic issues, your other organs having issues. And yeah, firsthand, it's not a fun thing to experience, but it's something that needs to get out. And it's one of the most satisfying things you will ever do is having gallstones pass out of your body. So,
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that is like one in the same with parasite cleansing, right? Like
yeah.
because we're going to be doing things that open up our drainage pathways, we're going to by de facto get other things out like gallstones. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
interesting research that you can literally go to PubMed. Again, like go to PubMed, you guys, look this up. This is true.
Best place ever.
We're not making this stuff up, that there are a lot of incidences where they've done these biopsies on the gallstones and they found parasites within them. So it is absolutely a real thing and something that is not talked about. And for me, like, just getting the buzzing and the gallbladder, like mine will just kind of feel like nummy, tingly, and then I'll have so that's kind of my thing, like painful, nummy, tingly kind of feeling. And then I have a more high histamine load when that happens too, I think, because my bodies can't detox. So my histamines kind of go crazy when that's going on. I also get a lot of digestive issues. It's kind of like fast and slow. And it's because that bile is trying its hardest to move through, but it can't. And I'm not digesting fats properly. So I see a lot of that when I go to the bathroom, which is so fun. And that's what I've experienced for sure. And then I have had on occasion kind of those gallbladder attacks as well, where I'm just like extreme nausea, like can barely talk. Like it's just like so much pain in the abdomen. And that all goes back to my body's trying to detox, but it can't. And so many people think, well, my gallbladder must be the issue, so I got to just take it out. But like you said, it's such a quick fix. Most people, if they're having the constipation, diarrhea, heartburn, pain in the gallbladder, that type of thing, the body is still going to try to create bile and just using your liver. And if your liver is already overburdened because your gallbladder was burdened, because they are really like besties in there, then you're just going to create more issues, and your body can never actually create its own, so you're going to have to take like TUDCA or bile acids or something like that to get things going. And that is something you have to take for the rest of your life if you have a gallbladder removed, and you're still going to have so many of those health issues in most cases.
And I think one thing to remember too is with the gallbladder is storing the bile that your liver is making. And so just because you're removing where the bile is stored, you're not fixing the bile and the organ that's creating it. And that's where the true issue is. And so if you want to get to the deeper root of like your gallbladder attack, like it really is your liver and like the toxins in it. It's not the gallbladder at all. That's just the quick fix. And so just remembering that too, of like, well, it's not the gallbladder, it's the liver, and you're not going to have your liver removed. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you're putting more stress on already overburdened liver too, right? Because the liver's overburdened because all the plastics we're exposed to and all the toxins and, all the chemicals and the heavy metals and the mold and, all the fun things. And if you have blood sugar dysregulation, that's going to stress out your liver. And, so I think it's,
and blood sugar dysregulation, like kind of if you really want to get into it, is if you're not having your bile working properly or you can't digest fats, that's going to cause a blood sugar issue.
Yes.
And so it's all working together. Like all of a sudden, this liver stagnation that you're experiencing and these clogs from these like parasites, you're suddenly getting like insulin resistance, weight loss resistance, because your blood sugar can't balance itself out and it's just not able to operate properly. And then that leads to hormone imbalances, and it's just all connected. So just give your little liver a hug today because it deserves it.
It's working so hard for you.
And
it's under attack like daily. It's under attack daily. Like you walk into a grocery store, you get hit by all these fragrances and, like you go out to eat and it's like all this canola oil and your pet licks you and you get more parasite exposure and it's just trying its best. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you. We got to give our livers a hug. I kind of want to play on this a little bit more too, just talking about, parasites and how it can also cause things like hormonal imbalances and mental health issues. So, because we're seeing such a high amount of people with mental health issues. I was looking at some stats this morning and they felt honestly low because I think that more people probably have like undiagnosed mental health issues than actually diagnosed. But it was almost like 25% of US Americans have some sort of mental health diagnosis. And I was also found another stat too, that like 40% of teenagers have some sort of mental health issue reported.
Okay.
And I think like, and suicide is really on the rise as well. So really, really scary statistics around that. And just wanted to talk about how parasites can also affect our mental health. So I was wondering if you wanted to take that away.
For sure. And I feel like I speak to it because I experience it myself. Like I've gone through, like obviously there's things in my life that have happened that have led to it, to like being really down and depressive. But usually when you're experience something traumatic, that's when you can get exposed to toxins and parasites and stuff. And that's when it's hard to pull yourself out of it. So what these parasites do when they come in is they're eating your serotonin. They're eating, like that's like crack to them. That's their favorite thing. They're just getting high off of your happy pill that you don't get to have access to. And so a lot of times depression and anxiety especially are signs of a parasite's infestation, because they're taking those neurotransmitters, they're taking those nutrients from you, and you don't get to feel them. And that's like so frustrating, because these entities are coming in and taking what's yours and really making you struggle. So I think looking at it, you're not crazy for the way that you're feeling. I think it's very validating knowing that something is taking that from you. Because I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't get why I'm so down. I don't get why this is happening. And it's like, well, you're not crazy because you're doing all the right things, but there's something that is taking it from you, and it's the parasites. So that's their job.
I mean, their job is to stay alive, and you are their host, and they are going to feed on all of your nutrients and your neurotransmitters, because that's what keeps them alive. And also too, I mean, we know too, there's, like you were saying too, there's a big brain gut, connection. And so when that gut is really disrupted, because we have these parasites, which is encouraging things like candida and, all the bad bacteria to overgrow, then too, we don't get that same, neurotransmitter production even, right? So it's kind of like there's a lack of that. And two, that's also going to play into like our cognitive function, and we're going to feel cloudier. Our immune system's going to be down. Like it's just, it all plays in together. And that's why it's like, Courtney and I are like, parasites, like that is the root cause to most things. Like we got to start there, because of all of these, all of these health consequences. I wanted to also touch too, just like on hormonal imbalances, because I think a lot of women have, PMS or PMDD, or just, blaming your hormones on everything, when I think that there's a deeper underlying root cause of parasites when it comes to hormones.
For sure. There are studies out there that show that like endometriosis is parasites, or like cysts. We've talked about this. Cysts in your body are parasites. And a lot of women, we do get cysts on ovaries, they're in the uterus, that sort of thing. So it's just, and like we kind of talked about how parasites can throw off the hormone production, just even starting in the liver, because that's where it starts. And with that being thrown off, you're more susceptible to having things like PCOS, endometriosis, and having those discomforts, or like you're not supposed to have symptoms during your period. You're just not. And because of these toxins and these parasites, you are kind of set up for failure, unfortunately.
100%. Yeah. There's a lot of really interesting information, like you said, about parasites causing that inflammation in that pelvic region and creating those lesions that can mimic endometriosis. And I bet you, if you've ever had an endo surgery, they have not tested it pathologically for what it actually was. They just remove it. So that's a big problem. And like you were saying too, about the hormone imbalances, kind of going back to that gut brain axis, we have certain microbes in our gut that help us break down estrogen. But if they're not working properly, because we have an overgrowth of parasites and fungus and all this stuff that kind of creates this little, nice home for themselves, we are going to be more prone to things like estrogen dominance. So it's like the liver, the gut, your reproductive organs, like you can start to see that everything's connected here, you guys. And that it's really that whole body approach that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want to share too about parasites, which is crazy, is they love to swim like in and out of your tissues. And so if you think about it in that gut brain axis, okay, if they're in your intestines, they could be swimming in and out of your intestine, creating it like holes, making it look like Swiss cheese. And that can lead to things like diverticulitis, leaky gut. And if your gut's off, you're not going to feel happy. You're not going to, that's such an important access. And then those nutrients are stripping through and you're not getting access to all these things. And then again, that still relates to your hormones and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and they can even be like swimming in and out of your tissues in like your body, in your muscles and stuff. So if you're experiencing like muscle weakness or extreme joint pain, like it's not necessarily your body attacking itself. It's these parasites that could be in there causing a ton of disruptions throughout your system.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more about everything you said, how like if you know, leaky gut is the huge thing right now. You're going to your holistic practitioner and they're helping you with your leaky gut. Well, if you never address parasites, you're never going to address your leaky gut because like you said, it's creating holes, it's creating that disruption, it's creating that stress, that immune stress in the, you know, the colon. And so, and what's interesting too, is that colon cancer is on the rise right now. And a lot of people are talking about how they have these tumors in their colon. And, you know, I'm thinking like, how is the body trying to protect itself from these parasites by creating a tumor or a cyst around it? So I think there's a really strong argument there for, you know, that being at the root cause of some of these colon cancers, like you were saying too.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's crazy. And it's just, it's so common. And like what gets me is like you have people going, like surgeons going in there and removing these. And sometimes you can tell that it's a parasite. Sometimes it is microscopic and it should be tested. And we should have, as the client to that doctor, we should have access to knowing exactly what it is. Because it's not just cancer. Like cancer is something. What is it? It's probably a toxin, a parasite. Sorry.
No, I was just getting passionate about this because cancer isn't just this like elusive thing that happens. It's there's a reason. There's always a root cause to why there's cancer. It's a toxin. It's a parasite. It's a heavy metal. It's, you know, there's something that's causing the body to incorrectly code DNA or protect itself by creating a cyst or a tumor. And there's this oxidative stress and immune activation towards something. And that has to do even with, you know, things like you're saying, like IBD and UC and diverticulitis and Crohn's. There is an immune activation. You know, I recently had a client come to me and she had really high calprotectin. She's like, well, this means I have IBD. So this means that you actually have a high response of your immune system to specifically viral infection in the gut because it's like lymphocytes are responding. They're part of your immune system, and lymphocytes respond to viral and bacterial infections. So why is your body holding on to a viral or bacterial infection there? Is it because of an exposure you had, but also is it because there's parasites stressing out the immune system and your body can't take care of it in that area, you know?
Yeah.
So if we kind of dig a little bit deeper instead of just, you know, well, I have this high number of, you know, XYZ, it's like, is there like, why is the body responding in that way? There's always a deeper thing. And it's actually in the medical literature that it's responding, not just like, oh, this is an inflammation marker. It's actually an immune marker. And it means something really important that doctors are not educating their patients on. And they're not addressing the root cause. They're just trying to get to the inflammation, not actually take care of the virus, the bacteria, and like the other root cause stressors like mold or parasites. So yeah.
For sure. And just like speaking on like other like autoimmune conditions and stuff, like people look at like an autoimmune condition being like, oh, my body is attacking itself, like rheumatoid arthritis or something like that. Your body doesn't attack itself. It's not coded or made to do that. It's attacking something that's disrupting. So what is on the joints that's causing that arthritis that is like making it attack itself? It's not attacking the tissues. It's attacking something that's in the tissues, embedded itself in the tissues. It's hiding in biofilm so the immune system can't get rid of it type deal. And so looking at it from a different lens and a different perspective of like, my body is here to always take care of itself. It's not attacking itself. So why is that happening? So I think that's really important to remember too.
Yeah, no, that's so beautifully said. I agree. It's like there's so many, again, documented research that once you dig into it, that we see that, when there's Lyme in the joints, that's why the body's attacking the joints, because of that Lyme. Or, viruses are really a big part of like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, right? So there's a virus in that thyroid tissue, and the body's attacking the virus, but it's in de facto attacking your own tissue, right? And it's kind of more like friendly fire than like, but it's actually trying to get the enemy. And so you're not the enemy. But your body knows better than that. Like you said, it's intelligent, it's wise, it's not coded to attack itself. And autoimmune issues were never really a problem until our world got super, super toxic too. So there's I think a really strong argument to that as well. And, going back to parasites, we were just talking about viruses or bacteria or like, Lyme disease. Okay, that's all great. But if you have a parasitic infection, you're more likely to be in this overactive immune activity where your body can be more prone to autoimmune activity, right? Because it can't take care of these other infections when it has such a big stressor, like literal entities living in your body, parasites. That is what it's going to prioritize, right? It's like a virus, bacteria, okay, whatever. But like these guys are really bad. They took a lot of energy from your body and they take a lot of resources, and your body doesn't have the capacity to take care of all these other things if you don't address that first.
Yeah. Yeah. And this might be a little off topic of what I'm going to share, but if you think about it, like parasites are attracted to toxicity. They're attracted to toxic tissues. Then you can even go as far as saying they're attracted to toxic emotions, toxic traumas in your body, like any of that. So you go into the parasite cleansing and you work on getting rid of it. But if you actually don't go deep enough into releasing the emotions associated with some of these parasites, you're not going to fully be able to get rid of them, because they're going to keep coming back because they're like, ooh, like this person's still upset about something their mom did to them, so I want to attach to that, or things along those lines. And it's so important to bring both of them together if you truly want to go extremely, extremely deep. And that is something that like I experienced firsthand, especially working with you, Jess, where I was doing mind, body, spirit release and parasite cleansing at the same time. And that's when I was able to pass like a 3-foot, it's called a cestode, but it's a tapeworm for more layman's term. I was able to pass a 3-foot cestode, which was like absolutely incredible. And I do believe me doing months of preparation and parasite cleansing allowed me to get to it. But that emotional release is what really allowed my body to let it go. So it is really important to bring all aspects of not just like killing the parasites, but you got to address the toxicity you're surrounding yourself with, whether that be emotions, the environment, what you're eating, it's all so, so important in this journey.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it's, and we think of it like, different perspectives of these entities in our body. Like, where have you let people take a stronghold over you, right? Where have you not set clear boundaries, where you let negative energies come into your being, especially people who may have had substance abuse issues or, childhood abuse issues, things like that, that really opens you up to negative entities or negative energies, and parasites have an affinity for that as well. And that's kind of that more spiritual perspective. But if we think of it even just like a physiological perspective, if your nervous system is always in fight or flight, your body won't feel safe to let go of these parasites and the toxins, right? It doesn't feel safe. It down prioritizes these natural processes that we should have. Maybe years and years ago, our body would naturally, detox parasites. We see animals naturally detox parasites. But because of all this all of this nervous system activation that we have these days from all the different, traumas and, technology in the world, we need to really work on that emotional component and the nervous system component so our body can feel safe to detox, safe to let go.
Yep.
If not, it's just going to hold on tight because it's in survival mode and shutdown mode in a lot of cases.
Yeah, for sure. Could not agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a big missing piece. And I think that that's why you and I are so passionate about it with our clients of like, okay, great. We're going to take you on this physical journey, but you also need to be working on the emotional trauma and nervous system piece too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we talk about like your toxin exposures, it is a lot deeper than just the surface level of what you're surrounding yourself with. And just remembering that. And like, you're not going to be perfect in the journey, and it's hard, and you're always just accepting that you're always going to be exposed to toxins, whether that is emotions or like things that you consume or whatever, but it's just important. Oh, and like one thing I was going to add too, like when it comes to like emotional and like toxin exposures, like we say, we're exposed to so much in our world, like the physical things of like the toxins, like the air, the water, all of that. But we're also exposed to it more just via technology. Like you think about it, we're on our phones, we're exposed to a lot more sadness, we're exposed to a lot more tragedy that's going on in the world. And that's a lot for our system to take on that we weren't meant to. And so being able to like recognize that and set those boundaries or protect yourself from it when you are consuming it so you're not absorbing it, that's going to set you up for success against those toxins, is what I'm going to call them, quote unquote. So absolutely. I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, that's so beautifully said. Like we're just exposed to so much in our world, not just physical, but emotional, energetic as well. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to touch on a few other just kind of things that I don't think people think about. One was iron deficiency anemia and also vision issues with parasites. I think that that's both of these are important topics and things that we've both seen clinically as well.
For sure. Yep. So we kind of touched on like anemia because I think I mentioned like parasites, they can live in your blood and that's what they're feeding on. So like you're their host. And so they're eating that, they're taking the nutrients from the blood, your liver is stressed. Like that's all going to associate with iron deficiency and that imbalance in that realm. And then when it comes to, what was the other one?
The vision issues? No.
The vision issues. Whew. The brain just left my body there for a minute.
No worries. Perfect.
The vision issues. I've experienced it, and I actually had a client experience it. She had extreme vertigo. She was getting a lot of eye floaters, like really like discombobulated and stuff. And even if you think about things like not being coordinated, like that can be a parasite issue as well, of just like not having that center to yourself. But like the eye floaters and all of that, like those are parasites disrupting your nerves. They're disrupting your system in a way in which it's not able to function properly and do what it's meant to do, which is like pretty crazy to even think that deeply of like, oh, I just have my ear ringing and like this little floater in my eyeball. It's just like, it's just what life is, or like I'm going blind. And it's like, no, there's a reason it's happening, and it's a parasite. Like it's not just your DNA shutting down on you. There's something causing it. So
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And just kind of going back to that neurotransmitter aspect too, especially with the dizziness and the vertigo and all that. I mean, that's going to all kind of play into all of that as well. So, and yeah, eye floaters are a big one too. Like you were saying, a lot of people get rid of their eye floaters by working on parasites. It's kind of something when you go to the doctor, they're just like, it's just a thing that happens when you get older, or just like a thing that happens. And it's, not to their fault. They weren't educated on this topic in medical school. But we need to do better than that and educate ourselves on like, there is a deeper root cause to things like eye floaters. And and to going back to the iron anemia, it's something I see a lot on labs is people have iron issues. And it's like you were saying, they eat the iron, but also too, they because they're so disruptive of the gut, they're preventing the absorption of iron as well. And they also like to feed on it. So it's like a triple whammy there of, you have all these issues going on, and they could all be going back to parasites. And instead we tried to just add more iron, right, with a supplement. That is not going to do anything. That's just giving them more food, right? And it's not going to be able to absorb because the parasites are disrupting the gut and causing that leaky gut. So when I see that, I try my best to start working on parasites with clients so they have that ability to absorb the iron and to process all of that and really, actually correct the issue instead of just Band-Aid it.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point too, of just like a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm taking all of these vitamins and all these nutrients and stuff. And it's like, that's amazing. I love that you are committed. You want to be your healthiest self. But if you don't address those toxins, those parasites in your body, you're not ever going to benefit from it. You might get like a little bit of a difference or feel a little bit better, but you're never fully absorbing it and benefiting from it. And that's why muscle testing is important too, because then we can find exactly what your body needs as well. But it's just all so important.
Agreed. Yes.
I feel like I keep saying that, but it's just like, it's so important, guys.
Totally. Well, I wanted to talk about, how do we get rid of parasites? And we kind of talked about, limiting toxic exposure, working on the trauma piece. But I think too, like the muscle testing and the labs and the bioindividuality and the working with the practitioner, like, again, like you cannot just go to your local health food store and pick up a parasite cleanse. $100 parasite cleanse from an online store or a $20 one or whatever, like does not replace the individuality of working with a practitioner. And also in the end will probably save you money because it'll be more effective and more efficient. It's not just because we have access to practitioner line supplements. It's actually because we know how to guide you through this strategically based on what you need as a person, based on muscle testing and labs and things like that. So what do you have to say about all that?
I agree completely. Just because, like, if you think about it, there's so many blanket protocols out there. Like, even with the practitioner-led ones that we utilize, they still have blanket protocols that people can just go buy and purchase and stuff. And that's amazing. But there is a point where you might not need one of those supplements that's in there and you need something else because your body is operating extremely different. And like the way I go through a parasite cleanse is extremely different compared to how you have to go through it because our bodies respond differently. They need different nutrients. We live in different environments. And so muscle testing allows for us to access and find like that honey spot for your body and like what it needs and how to get rid of it in the most efficient way, because we're not just going to set you off on some parasite killer that isn't even addressing the right parasite that you have in your body. And so we need to know what's in there. We need to know exactly what we're going after, how to go after it, and at what capacity and what your body can actually handle as well, because sometimes you can't handle the full dose, and that's okay, but it's still going to work just as good as it would on somebody who needs a high dose. Like, it's just how needy your body is. That's all it is. So it's so important to be able to have that tested and have access to somebody who can muscle test you and give you like the best intention of a protocol. So that way you don't get sick from it and you can feel your best as you can throughout the experience, because that's the whole goal for what you and I do and what we talk about a lot as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. My biggest goal is for people not to have like my story or your story where like, I was handed a kit from a functional medicine doctor, didn't open my drainage pathways, and cue laying on the bathroom floor for hours and writhing pain because my body was trying to get rid of a parasite, but it couldn't because it was stuck. And that's why, you take that time to open up the drainage pathways, you address individual, deficiencies and needs and toxic exposures and emotions. And like you said, using muscle testing, which is a biofeedback technique from the nervous system, from the body, asking it what it needs. I tend to be one of those people who can pass a parasite by taking, just 3 or 4 parasite things. But you're like one of those people who was like, give me half the bottle, and we're all in different parts of our journey too, right? Like you have different types of parasites than I do. And it needs different levels of intervention and things like that. And I know I bring in like homeopathics a lot with my clients, or different, I do clearings on them with mind, body, spirit release around it. And, kind of bringing in different things that help them, and different detox techniques as well. Not just like coffee enemas, but maybe like we add something to the coffee enema, or you do a water enema because that's all they're ready for. Or maybe they need to be sweating during this whole process, or even like fasting, like there's different ways to go about it, but everybody's different, and muscle testing unlocks that bio-individual approach that you need that you're not going to get if you just take a kit off the shelf or from a practitioner and take it. Like it's not going to be the same result. Sure. Yeah.
Agreed. And you make such a good point, because it's more than just the supplements during the detox. There are other recommendations, and you taught me how to muscle test around that actually, but like other recommendations of like bringing in other modalities, like taking a sauna or coffee enemas or castor oil packs, and like being able to utilize those in the amount that your body needs, and not just doing it every day because that's what the online world said. And it's like, no, we actually muscle test how many times you should sauna a week for how long, and same with castor oil packs or coffee enemas. And I think that's where you get to feel so much more empowered, because you're understanding your body more, you're understanding your nervous system and exactly what it needs, and how to best efficiently get rid of these parasites, which is that's just so needed and so cool, instead of just guessing. Because if you're guessing, you're probably going to get like 5% better and then not actually be able to progress to that next level in which you're wanting.
100%. Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's important too to have a coach and a partner and through all this too, because it can feel a little bit like overwhelming. Like I'm sure like if you've never heard of parasites before and you're coming across this podcast, you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds terrifying. But honestly, it should be a pretty easy process. Like literally you get rid of them through a bowel movement. And it should just feel like a normal everyday bowel movement if done properly, Sometimes, I know in my experience, or even in my clients' experiences, you might kind of feel a little bit more of an urgency, or even just kind of like a whoa, I don't feel great all of a sudden, kind of like a whoosh. And then you go to the bathroom and then you just feel like amazing afterwards.
Yeah. Like you feel a little cramping.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, oh, like something just happened. And, and some people are like, I'm going to look, and they're like digging in there and they're sending me photos. And other people are like, I'm flushing. And I'm like, that's okay. Like you do you. But just know like you're getting rid of them, because like you said too, 70% of them are microscopic. So a lot of times you can't see them visibly as well. So
for sure. And I think like a lot of people, I love the people that love to dig, because I want to see them too. But most people do have a good experience of where they come out fully in the bowel. I am the type of person that has the luck of having to pull them out myself. Oh yeah. And I've had a couple of clients that have had to do that. So that is something to like prepare yourself for. But I feel like I'm the only one that's really come across that. And it's part of it, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't feel weird. You just feel like this deep satisfaction of like getting rid of whatever the heck that was, because you got rid of the toxins and you got rid of the emotions associated with it. And like you said, at the end of it, you're just like, oh, like that's the most relaxed that I have ever felt in my life, when I passed some of those parasites that I had to pull out of myself. So
totally, because they're no longer causing your immune system and your nervous system that stress. Your body is like, I am safe to let go. And this was stressing me out and causing sickness. And now that I've let this go, like I feel so much better. And it's like an instant relief. Yeah. And you're right. Some people do need to pull them out. Thank God I haven't experienced that yet. I do tell clients.
Count your blessings. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, in some cases you do, and, you're just kind of mentally prepared for it. But again, like most of the time, it's just a normal bowel movement. I think we were going to also talk about too, some people have them in their sinuses, so you might kind of blow your nose and might see something. And in some cases, especially women who have those more, PCOS endo symptoms, they will pass them through period blood as well. So there are different pathways for parasites to leave the body, and including urine as well. You know, some people have parasites in their bladder, that causes a lot of bladder issues, and they can pass them through the urine. But for the most part, people are passing them through the bowel, for sure.
Yep. I'm pretty sure, trying to think back when I was really deep in it, I had bowels, I had them come out in my period, and I've had them come out of my nose. They've all been dead when they've left my body. But yeah, you definitely, it just depends on how toxic you are, or sometimes it's how willing you are and like how ready you are to release them as well. Like if you're just kind of like skeptical, you're probably not going to have like the release quite like what I did of having it come out of every hole of your body. But I mean, you can still have a lot come out, which is pretty cool. It's just how willing you are to go deep. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of this has to do with the intention, because again, your nervous system is so intimately involved in this process. So if you keep telling your body like, hey, it is safe to let go and I want you to let go, it will let go. And like you said, they start evacuating from all the different ways. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because gosh, you needed those out of there. I mean, think about how that could have led to uterine cancer or, you know, complications with pregnancy later on. How, you know, you could have had some sinus issues that you had no idea about. And then too, just, you know, getting those big guys out again, like bile duct cancer, you know, colon cancer, you know, all the bad things, but also just digestive distress, food sensitivities, like lack of freedom, you know, of, you know, just being able to feel healthy and well and energetic. So I'm happy for you and all that. And happy for people who take this journey, because like health freedom is possible, but it just takes kind of, I think, some of these alternative avenues that we're just not educated on, that are actually at the root of a lot of these common issues that people have. They don't realize.
For sure. And I think one thing I just want to put a little nugget in people's brains, because I don't know if you have a majority of women listeners or male, but a way for men to detox is through their semen as well. So it is really important to be aware of that, especially if you're going to have kids or whatever, but also just like men need to detox that part of themselves as well and be aware of it. And like, you can do the research, we're not going to dive into that today, but it's just so important to like be aware, like of all the detox pathways. It's not just your bowels and the way you pee, but it's your sweat, it's your period, it's semen, it's your nose, like it's anything and everything you could think of that leaves your body is a form of detoxification and a toxin leaving the body, if your drainage pathways are open.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's important for women that have fertility issues, because they could be exposed to parasites through their partner in that way. And that's why, you know, I think one thing I'm very passionate about is women put in all this work prepping for pregnancy, and guys are like, I'll go down to, you know, one or two beers a week and maybe take, you know, a multivitamin. If you're lucky. For most guys, they are not thinking about how their body plays into so much of these fertility issues, and how they could actually be exposing their partner to parasites, because they have parasites that they're sharing through bodily fluids, and is exposing their partner to these things, and they are actually causing their partner to have fertility issues, the female to have fertility issues.
And so even if like the pregnancy is successful, it can still contribute to the woman's experience during her pregnancy as well. Like it can contribute to some of the symptoms. It could contribute to the way her birth goes and all of that stuff. And it's just having that awareness, because obviously there's only so much a person can do and stuff, but it's having that awareness of knowing like, I'm going to do my best I can with what I know, moving forward to help my partner, to help myself, and heal in those ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. It's just being aware that this is a contributing factor, and we all need to be taking care of ourselves the most optimal way, you know? But you're right. Like parasites can also create different birth outcomes. There's a specific parasite that'll actually is a huge contribution to preterm births. And it's actually on the like March of Dimes. Is that what it is? Like about premature babies. It's on their website as a contributing factor with information and research on it, how this particular parasite could be with like either stillbirths or preterm births and like low birth rates and things, or birth weight and things like that. It's, we're not making this up when we are saying this stuff, you guys. Like, this is documented, researched information. It's just something that is not widely talked about because I think it's a little bit taboo. And also I don't think that it makes Big Pharma a lot of money. So
and I do want to say, like, I hope those thoughts are like healing for women too, because I feel like women always want to blame themselves. Like, what did I do wrong? Why isn't this working? And it's like, sometimes that's not your fault. Sometimes it is something that was a toxin in yourself and your partner and stuff like that. And just being aware of it and just giving yourself grace and knowing like you're doing your best. So
100%.
Did you know that STDs are parasites too? Just got to throw that little one in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, yes.
Yeah. Lots of STDs are parasitic in nature. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's just crazy. It's all related. It's all related, guys.
Yes, absolutely. It is. So, man, what a good discussion today. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Yeah.
It's been great.
It's been fun.
I wanted to ask you a final question.
Okay.
So, as you know, the Body Ethos Podcast is all about helping people take meaningful steps to shift their lives and ultimately shift the culture from sickness to health. So, what is one impactful action that anybody listening today can take right now to support their body in parasite cleansing, toxins, reclaiming their health?
So my one thing that I would say, and I feel like it's a big thing because it's kind of hard to narrow down, but I think you can take what you can from it and just do baby steps. But I think just working on the foundations of your health, and that includes mental, physical, internal, emotional, all of it, because the sooner that you can start working on that and working through it, building the best and the strongest body that you can, it's going to allow you to be more prepared for working with a practitioner like Jess or I, because we're going to start you there anyway. And if you're already one step ahead of us, then we can help you get rid of these toxins a little faster. Your body's going to be more receptive to it. So if you can just start by reducing toxins in your environment, reducing emotional toxins that you're constantly exposed to, if you can, as best you can, or start healing some of those parts of you ahead of time, that's going to be extremely beneficial and more than you could ever know, to be honest. So
I love that so much. So beautifully said. Thank you.
Thank you.
So beautifully said. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Body Ethos Podcast. I hope this conversation with Courtney gave you some new insights and tools on your journey towards health and healing. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody who you think might benefit from the information we discussed today. And for more resources, updates, and ways to connect with either myself or Courtney, please check out the show notes below. And remember, like Courtney said, just taking those small steps can make big shifts when you're committed to addressing the root cause of these health issues and health challenges you might be experiencing. But until next time, let's keep shifting that culture from sickness to health. And I hope you all have a great day.